The eerie tale of the deaths of Hollywood icon Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy has left the public in utter disbelief. Will the truth ever come to light? Gene Hackman's daughter, Leslie Hackman, was thrust into a courtroom where she was compelled to reveal secrets never shared before. What did Leslie really know about her father's condition? And are there sinister truths lurking behind the tragic deaths of Gene and Betsy? To uncover the chilling secrets surrounding their demise, make sure you don't miss any crucial details. Like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates on this mysterious case. Leslie had always spoken fondly of her close bond with her father, claiming they spoke every week, with Gene still discussing books he'd read and the classic films he adored. Her interviews painted a picture of a man as sharp and principled off-screen as he was on, reassuring the public about his mental clarity. But that carefully crafted image began to crumble when a shocking revelation emerged. Leslie hadn't seen her father in months before his death. Phone records, documents, and testimonies from those close to Hackman revealed that, in the year leading up to his death, he had little contact with his daughter. The calls Leslie had mentioned seemed never to have happened. So, was her story the truth, or merely a well-crafted facade to mislead the public? As investigators delved deeper into Gene Hackman's final days, an unsettling truth surfaced. He hadn't left his home for months, and neighbors rarely saw him outside, a stark contrast to the image Leslie had painted of her father. If this story has piqued your interest and you want to dive deeper into the surprising details, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos in this exploration series. Drop a comment below to share your thoughts and let us know what you think about Gene Hackman's daughter's testimony. We're excited to have you join us as we unravel the truth together. Leslie described Gene Hackman as a healthy, sharp man until his final days, painting a picture of a father still strong enough to enjoy life, albeit in his own private way. But why does this account clash so sharply with the reality investigators uncovered? If Leslie truly had such a close relationship with her father, why didn't she notice the disconnect? Why didn't she recognize the signs that her father had been completely isolated from the outside world for months? Several possibilities could explain this discrepancy. One is that Leslie might not have fully grasped the extent of her father's privacy. Her visits or contact could have been too infrequent or shallow for her to notice that he was living in complete isolation. It's possible to appear healthy and sharp in brief conversations while hiding the reality of full isolation. Another possibility is that Leslie saw her father's health and sharpness differently. As long as he could converse, recognize her, and maintain clarity, she might have considered him fine. She may not have noticed the lack of physical activity or his refusal to leave the house as warning signs, especially if he had always preferred a private, homebound lifestyle. There could also be more complex dynamics at play within the family. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy, may have deliberately kept his true condition hidden from Leslie, perhaps to protect her from worry, or simply to maintain their privacy. On the other hand, it's also possible that Betsy didn't fully recognize the extent of the isolation, or if she did, she chose not to share it with Leslie, further deepening the mystery. Amid the confusion surrounding the investigation into Gene Hackman's death, Leslie Hackman quickly spoke to the press, suggesting that a gas leak in the house might have caused his sudden death. If true, This theory would provide a specific, verifiable explanation for the death of a man Leslie claimed was still healthy and sharp. It could also account for why someone who hadn't left the house in months would die in that very home. However, the gas leak theory was swiftly dismissed by the police, raising many questions. Why did Leslie propose this theory? Was it a personal assumption based on her observations, or was she hiding something? According to the investigation records presented to Leslie, the truth was something entirely different. What was written in the records left Leslie in shock. Her father, the strong man she had always admired, had been battling severe Alzheimer's. He had also suffered multiple heart attacks in the past, things she had never known, never imagined, and had even publicly denied. Now, the undeniable evidence was staring her in the face, forcing her to confront a truth she had never been prepared for. From the start, Leslie had insisted that her father was healthy, alert, and showing no signs of illness. She told the press he still read books and could drive, but the medical reports told a very different story. According to the findings, Hackman had been battling late-stage Alzheimer's for at least 2 years before his death. Those close to him had noticed signs of memory decline long before. He had forgotten the names of old friends and struggled to find his way home, despite living there for over a decade. Some former house staff even revealed that Hackman sometimes failed to recognize his wife, Betsy Arakawa. The most concerning revelation, however, was Hackman's cardiovascular condition. The investigation report confirmed that he had suffered multiple heart attacks in the past, yet this had never been made public. One of his treating doctors left a note in his medical records detailing the history of heart attacks and signs of severe coronary artery disease. What remains unclear is why the family chose to keep his true health status a secret. Despite facing numerous health challenges, Hackman lived a long and fulfilling life, choosing to spend his final years in peace, away from the Hollywood spotlight. His legacy as an actor remains strong, but it is his resilience in confronting health issues that stands out. With the shocking discoveries in the ongoing investigation, it seems we've only begun to uncover a larger mystery. Were Hackman and his wife truly victims of an unforeseen accident, or is there something strange and unexplained that the FBI is slowly piecing together? This story will continue to captivate the public and spark debate in the months ahead as more details come to light. If Hackman was truly that frail, why was Leslie completely unaware? As soon as this information came to light, the media began questioning the credibility of Leslie's previous statements. A woman who consistently claimed to have a close relationship with her father should have been well aware of his health condition, yet she seemed completely ignorant of Hackman's illness. Or perhaps she simply didn't want to acknowledge it. Some journalists speculated that Leslie lived too far away from her father in his final years to notice the signs of illness. However, a hospital source revealed that throughout Hackman's treatment, Leslie never once visited him. This revelation only deepened the mystery about the true nature of Leslie's relationship with her father. Why did she portray such a different image of him to the public? Clearly, much remains hidden, and one theory is starting to emerge. Perhaps Leslie wasn't the only one trying to conceal the truth. Sources suggest that Betsy Arakawa, Gene Hackman's wife, had total control over information about his health. She was the sole caregiver during his final years, deciding who could contact him and who could not. This has led to speculation that Leslie might not have been lying, but rather was simply unaware of the truth, as she wasn't truly by her father's side during that time. But this raises an even bigger question. Why was Gene Hackman so isolated that even his daughter had no idea about his condition? As this information spread across the media, a wave of controversy ignited. Questions emerged about whether Leslie truly loved her father, or if she was merely trying to protect the family's reputation. Some argued this could be a typical case of celebrity family members trying to shield their loved one's image by denying painful truths. Gene Hackman's fan base became divided. One faction believes that Leslie didn't know about her father's health because Betsy, Hackman's wife, deliberately kept it hidden. Others suspect that Leslie may have intentionally ignored the truth, unwilling to face the reality of a Gene Hackman no longer as strong as he once was. Did Leslie truly not recognize her father's deteriorating health, or was she concealing his decline? The medical evidence clearly contradicts Leslie's claims about his mental sharpness. Is there a deeper secret being hidden about this Hollywood legend's health? Regardless of the final outcome, one thing is undeniable. Gene Hackman, the legendary actor, was no longer the man he once was in his final years. He was no longer the strong, sharp figure the public had once admired. While the world outside continued to believe he was fine, he fought alone against a relentless disease, isolated within the confines of his own home. Leslie's suspicious actions have only deepened doubts about her claim of being unaware of her father's health condition. It's clear she had knowledge of the situation through reliable sources, like conversations with family members. She knew her father hadn't left the house for an extended period. Her strange behavior, including avoiding contact with the police to the point of being served a subpoena, has only heightened public skepticism. A notable detail is that Leslie only appeared after everything had ended. She wasn't present during Hackman's final days, nor did she help care for him during that difficult time. This has led close acquaintances to question the close relationship she had previously claimed with her father, especially when it became clear that she hadn't seen him for a long period. A former friend of Gene Hackman, a director who had worked with him, noted that Gene was never the type to hide his health issues. In fact, he had openly discussed his health problems with the media in the past. So why was his daughter unaware of his condition? Could there be a secret she's unwilling to reveal? Another controversial point is that immediately after her father's sudden death, Leslie requested to manage all of Gene's assets without informing any other family members of her decision. This raised even more eyebrows, as Gene Hackman had always been very private about his finances and had never left clear instructions for the family. Leslie even refused to share details about the estate with relatives, leading them to suspect she was attempting to claim Gene Hackman's vast fortune for herself. Although Gene Hackman had openly shared his intentions for distributing his estate before his death, Leslie made a notable request to alter the will. She asked for changes to the portion Hackman had allocated to other family members, and even added the names of individuals who weren't close to him to the list of heirs. The reason behind this was clear. The portion Hackman left to Leslie wasn't large enough for her liking, prompting her to stir up controversy by seeking a redistribution of assets to secure a larger share for herself. After Gene's death, Leslie continued to attract public attention when she was seen dining at an upscale restaurant with her sister, Elizabeth. What shocked everyone was that throughout the meal, Leslie smiled brightly, showing no signs of sadness or mourning over the profound loss. While everyone copes with grief differently, Leslie's behavior in this situation left many feeling confused. Instead of taking time to reflect and share her sorrow with family, she appeared calm, even cheerful. She chatted comfortably with her sister, laughed, and discussed everyday matters, which only deepened doubts about her true emotions. Many who witnessed this scene began to question the sincerity of Leslie's emotions toward her father. They wondered if she was trying to conceal her true feelings or simply didn't feel deeply affected by Gene Hackman's death. This became even more apparent when compared to the reactions of other family members, who were more reserved and less openly expressive of their emotions. As the case unfolded, two main theories began to emerge. The first, a troubling theory, suggested that Leslie was fully aware of her father's health condition, but intentionally kept it hidden. She might have felt guilty for not being there for him in his final months. Or there could be another reason for her silence. Gene Hackman's death remains clouded in mystery, and her statements in court are just the beginning of a complex quest for the truth. Not only were Hackman and Arakawa affected, but even their 3 dogs were not spared from the consequences. One dog died before the police arrived, with the cause still unclear. The remaining 2 dogs survived, but their health had significantly deteriorated, showing signs of dehydration and malnutrition. Veterinarians concluded that all 3 dogs exhibited signs of respiratory infections, possibly caused by an airborne virus in the house. However, the big question remains, how could such a luxurious mansion, always kept clean, become the ideal environment for a dangerous virus to develop and spread? The second, more mysterious theory began to take shape as the story progressed. Could something have happened in Gene Hackman's final months that Leslie is trying to protect, hiding a deeper secret? Everything surrounding the death of this Hollywood icon remains unclear, and the details of Leslie's actions continue to spark numerous questions from both the public and the family. One major question still lingers. If Hackman was truly as healthy and sharp as Leslie claimed, why did he completely withdraw from the world? Why was no one other than Betsy Arakawa able to confirm his actual condition? And most importantly, why does Leslie seem so nervous and evasive when asked about her father's final months? This story clearly has many untold layers, but one thing is certain: Leslie won't be able to hide the truth forever. When forensic investigators conducted the autopsies of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, initial theories surrounding their deaths were quickly called into question. At first, police speculated that Hackman might have died from old age and the final stages of Alzheimer's, but the circumstances surrounding Arakawa's death added complexity. She passed away suddenly, with no signs of struggle or external injury, just a frail body and a shattered bottle of pills on the floor. But when the autopsy results were released, chilling details began to emerge, making the situation even more terrifying and difficult to explain. The initial conclusion pointed to Gene Hackman dying from a heart attack. Alzheimer's disease had weakened his body, causing his cardiovascular condition to worsen, and when no one was around, he passed away quietly, with no signs of external force. Hackman died alone, sitting in a chair in the mudroom, possibly from exhaustion or a sudden heart attack. However, the most haunting aspect wasn't his death itself, but the crushing loneliness he endured in his final months, with no one there to care for or comfort him. When forensic experts examined Betsy Arakawa's body, they discovered a shocking detail. She had contracted a dangerous virus that can cause severe respiratory failure and weaken internal organs. This virus is typically transmitted through contact with the feces, urine, or saliva of infected rodents, or by inhaling dust particles from rodent feces in the air. It can also be transmitted through contaminated food and drink, raising even more suspicions about the cause of her death. What's terrifying is that this virus can develop in the human body without showing clear symptoms for many days, meaning Betsy could have been infected long before the illness fully manifested on her final day. The symptoms of the virus include a sudden high fever, severe difficulty breathing, muscle pain, prolonged fatigue, and rapid respiratory failure. When forensic investigators examined the living conditions in the house, they found numerous signs of rodents, which could have been the source of Arakawa's infection. However, the biggest unanswered question remains. When did she get infected? And more importantly, was this virus truly the primary cause of her death, or merely a contributing factor in her tragic demise? Hackman always kept his personal life private, especially when it came to his children during interviews. In 1989, he shared with film critic John C. Tibbets that audiences felt close to him because he presented himself as an ordinary man, explaining, "I want to keep my personal life simple, so that when I'm in front of the art, I can let go and immerse myself in it." During an appearance on Larry King Live, Hackman reflected on the early days of his career. When Larry King asked about his transition from obscurity to widespread success, Hackman admitted, "Honestly, I didn't handle it very well. I took care of my family, made sure they lacked for nothing, but I was too fascinated by Hollywood, its mystique. Even though I never really became part of it, I still felt fascinated because I was a part of it, and the feeling that I could be anyone and do anything I wanted." As the FBI and investigative team continued their search of the house, they discovered something unusual. The basement seemed to be absent from the original floor plan of the house. A police officer happened to spot an old wooden door in this area, a door that didn't appear in any construction documents. When they opened the door, a dark tunnel suddenly revealed itself. The air grew thick and tense. What awaited them inside? With flashlights in hand, they began descending the stairs, each step making the space feel eerily silent. As the light reached the final wall of the tunnel, the group froze, their eyes locking onto the chilling scene before them. The investigators quickly noticed several unsettling details that couldn't be ignored. Hackman and his wife, Betsy, appeared to have been isolated in an unusual way. Why would a couple with so many connections in Hollywood suddenly disappear from the public eye in their final months? Neighbors reported that no one had been seen entering or leaving the Hackman house for weeks, a stark contrast to his usual habits. Hackman had once frequently interacted with his neighbors, but in recent months, he seemed to have vanished from the world entirely. As the case intensifies, Leslie, Hackman's only daughter, is forced to testify in court. She never imagined she'd one day have to answer questions about the mysterious death of her father. As the daughter of a legend, Leslie always portrayed a close relationship with Hackman. But the biggest question still looms. Did she truly not know about his condition, or is she hiding a shocking truth? And if she knows more than she's letting on, could her testimony change the course of the entire case? The courtroom was thick with tension as all eyes fixed on Leslie Hackman, daughter of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman. Standing there, her expression resolute yet eyes betraying unease, she faced relentless questions about her father's final days and the truth everyone had been waiting to uncover. Did she truly know nothing? Or had she been hiding something all along? As the silence deepened, a shocking revelation about the deaths of Gene and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, began to surface. Their deaths were far from coincidental, and suspicions about Leslie's role, paired with evidence buried in Santa Fe, ignited a mystery that was far from over, one that was only beginning to unravel. With the newly revealed investigation documents, legal experts began to propose a bold hypothesis. Leslie Hackman and her testimony could be the key to uncovering the truth behind the case. According to sources from the Santa Fe Police Department, Leslie hadn't seen her father in months, a long period, especially considering his health condition. So how could she claim Hackman was still healthy before his death? If Leslie truly didn't know about her father's late-stage Alzheimer's and serious heart condition, that would be a shocking case of neglect. But if she knew and still denied it, it would be even more shocking, potentially leading to a new investigation into the deaths of Hackman and Arakawa. Hackman and Maltese welcomed their first child, son Christopher Allen Hackman, in 1960. In February 1984, Hackman sat down with journalist Lita Powell Drake for an interview about the film Misunderstood. When asked about his relationship with his son as Christopher grew older, Hackman expressed that even though his son was in his 20s, they still maintained a close bond. He shared how grateful he felt that he could still hug his son just as he did when Christopher was younger. Hackman shared that he never imagined he and his son would reach a point where they had to change how they expressed affection, where instead of hugging, they would be shaking hands. He believed one of the biggest challenges in the films he worked on was confronting the coldness of not recognizing or being sensitive to a child's need for affection and a father's embrace. In a 2011 interview, Hackman spoke about his experience as a father. When asked about the advice he had given to his son, Hackman admitted that his absence during the crucial years of his son's life made it difficult for him to offer much guidance. Being frequently away on film shoots, while his son needed support, made it challenging for Hackman to come home and suddenly start giving orders to his son. Gene Hackman was once one of Hollywood's greatest icons, but in the final years of his life, he passed away in eerie silence. Betsy Arakawa, a seemingly healthy woman, died from a rare disease. Leslie Hackman is the only one who could shed light on what truly happened, yet she appeared unaware of her father's condition. All these factors raise a significant question. Are these just random events, or is there something more to this, a carefully orchestrated drama? For Leslie Hackman, the tragedy of losing both her father and stepmother is not only a personal loss, but a scar that will never fade. The public is asking questions, the family is under scrutiny, and the media won't let go. Hackman made rare comments about his children in an interview with Irish Independent in August 2000, noting that they had helped him decide to continue acting instead of pursuing a career behind the camera. After securing the rights to Silence of the Lambs, he had planned to make his directorial debut, but ultimately declined the opportunity, a decision he said he had no regrets about. He shared, "I didn't give it a second thought," and added, "My children helped me see that it wasn't the best thing for me." He also acknowledged the challenges of being the child of a famous person, saying, "I couldn't always be home with them as they grew up and lived in California. My success always weighed heavily on them." Despite having a complicated relationship with his father, Hackman's children loved him deeply and were shocked when they heard the news of his tragic death. Looking back on his journey as a writer, Hackman shared the early career aspirations of his son in an interview with Empire magazine in January 2020. He recalled that his son once dreamed of becoming an actor and was in New York, where Hackman wrote small monologues for him. His son was very excited about what he was doing and began exploring his creative passion as ideas continuously popped into his head, and he would write them down. Reports suggest that Hackman's health had worsened in the years leading up to his death in 2025. Close friends noted his growing weakness and difficulty moving, although his mind remained sharp. When Hackman and his wife were found dead in their home in February 2025, many speculated whether his cardiovascular condition had played a role in his death. Data from his pacemaker confirmed that his heart stopped beating on February 17th, but the exact cause of death remains uncertain. Some experts believe that his wife, in shock after finding him unresponsive, may have died from heart failure due to the stress. Thank you all for watching until the end of the video. The case of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa is still full of unanswered questions. Will the truth ever be revealed? And will we ever understand the secrets the Hackman family has hidden? Stories like this always make us reflect and ask big questions about what's happening behind the spotlight. Be sure to stay tuned to our channel so you don't miss any updates on this case and other mysterious stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because the truth can always surprise us at any moment. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video. The case surrounding Gene Hackman's mysterious death took a shocking turn when the testimony of an unassuming neighbor ignited a wave of disbelief, completely altering the investigation. Residing just steps from Hackman's home, this neighbor, who had remained silent for weeks, suddenly changed her account, unveiling startling details that compelled authorities to reopen the case. Her revelations left the family reeling and the public in a frenzy. What did she witness that fateful night? And why has she only now found the courage to speak? As the truth begins to unravel, one question looms large. What really happened to Gene Hackman? And why did these secrets stay hidden for so long? Is there more lurking beneath the surface? The deeper we dig, the more the mystery thickens. Can we truly face the dark truths that are slowly emerging? It's a reality that may be too overwhelming to bear, but one that demands answers. If you're intrigued by the mysterious death of Gene Hackman and the neighbor's shocking testimony, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe for more updates on this case. Now, let's dive into the unsolved mysteries that still linger. Gene Hackman, a Hollywood icon who once commanded the screen with unforgettable performances, chose to leave the spotlight and spend his final years in Santa Fe, New Mexico. No luxury, no chaos, no drama, just the peaceful, quiet life he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, dreamed of. Hackman's mansion, a sprawling 9,000-square-foot retreat, sat amid the serene, wild beauty of Santa Fe. Unlike many other stars with multiple properties, Hackman found his sanctuary in one place, a true paradise after a career devoted to cinema. In those years, Hackman paid little mind to the fame of his past. He embraced a simple life, starting each morning with a hot cup of coffee, a few strokes of the paintbrush, and a peaceful walk through the garden, feeling the cool breeze rustling the leaves. While Hollywood thrived on fleeting romances, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were a testament to enduring commitment and devotion. They crossed paths in the 1980s when Betsy, a young piano artist, entered Hackman's life. Though Hackman had been married before, Betsy convinced him she was his true soulmate. Together, they spent 3 decades in quiet harmony. Betsy pursued her passion for music, while Hackman found solace in painting and writing. Neither of them chased fame or craved headlines. Their only desire was a peaceful life, lived simply and away from the spotlight. Despite his reclusive lifestyle, Hackman was often seen around town each morning. He'd drive out to fetch the paper, sometimes stopping by a familiar coffee shop. The shop owner still recalls a man whose sharp eyes spoke volumes, carrying the weight of quiet wisdom. Gene didn't say much, but when he did, it was impossible not to listen. One neighbor noted, "There was one thing that always intrigued us. Hackman never opened the door to strangers, and even the closest neighbors rarely crossed his threshold." Hackman's mansion stood like a fortress, shared only by him and Betsy. Over time, whispers began to circulate. Why did Hackman isolate himself so completely? Was there something hidden within those walls? These were just rumors, and no one could have predicted the tragic events that would soon follow, altering everything. About 2 weeks before the disturbance, neighbors noticed something unusual. Hackman had stopped his regular trips to buy the paper, and the lights in the mansion burned through the night, as if someone were restless or keeping vigil. Betsy disappeared from sight, even though she regularly visited the nearby market for groceries. What was happening inside the estate remained a mystery. One neighbor remembered, "I heard a strange sound one late night, not arguing or shouting, but something else, something I still can't place." Yet no one saw it as a warning sign. No one imagined that just days later, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa would vanish without a trace. One morning, the mailman noticed piles of unread newspapers piling up outside the Hackman house. Neighbors began to take notice. The house was silent, with no signs of life. No one coming or going, no sounds from within. That's when the police were called, and what they discovered inside sent shockwaves through Hollywood. The way Gene Hackman faded into the shadows, and the mansion turned into a silent, empty shell, was just the beginning of a tragedy more shocking than any film he had ever starred in. Just when it seemed they were starting to piece things together, the stunning testimony of a neighbor changed everything. This was only the beginning of the story. The death of Betsy Arakawa sent shockwaves through the neighborhood and raised countless unanswered questions. The woman who had stood by Gene Hackman for over 30 years, a steady presence in his life, was now gone under mysterious circumstances. Betsy was discovered in the bathroom on a somber February afternoon when the police raided the Hackman estate. What they found would haunt them forever. Betsy slumped beside the fireplace, her head resting gently on the edge of the bathtub as if she were simply sleeping. Thyroid medication packets were scattered across the floor, some pills intact, others crushed. The room, however, was eerily clean, with no signs of struggle, no injuries, and no external force at play. Yet Betsy had vanished. When the autopsy report was released, the mystery deepened. The official cause of death, hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, a rare disease transmitted by rodents that attacks the lungs and respiratory system. It begins with flu-like symptoms, rapidly escalating to shortness of breath, lung failure, and eventually organ failure. However, there was one glaring issue. There were no signs of rodents in Hackman's house. No nests, no droppings, nothing to indicate the presence of the virus. What did this mean? The police scoured the mansion for clues, checking every dark corner, crack, and cupboard, leaving no stone unturned. They even combed through the garden, yet found no evidence to explain Betsy's sudden death. Then, the first clue emerged. Faint, old footprints, and a few rodent droppings, possibly left months ago. Yet there was no evidence of rodents having infiltrated the house. So how did Betsy contract the virus? And why had no one noticed anything until it was too late? Another unsettling detail appeared in the autopsy report. Betsy's time of death was estimated to be around February 11th, but her body wasn't discovered until several days later. No one acknowledged Betsy's absence. There were no calls from her, no sightings of her stepping outside. Even the delivery person received no requests from the Hackman estate. The eerie silence stretched for a week, but something darker lingered. Gene Hackman had also disappeared during that time. A neighbor, Linda Brooks, shared a chilling detail. "I thought Gene had gone somewhere, but there's one thing that haunts me. On the night of February 10th, I saw their lights flickering on and off, as if someone was moving through every room, then everything went silent." What does this imply? Gene Hackman was in the house when Betsy fell ill, yet he never called for help. Why wasn't Betsy taken to the hospital? Why would someone play such a dangerous game? Iconic figures on screen lose all control in their own homes. Gene Hackman may have known something that no one else did, something that could change everything. When news of Betsy's death broke, it didn't clarify anything. It only deepened the mystery. A theory emerged. Betsy couldn't have contracted the virus from inside the house, so where did it come from? Where was Gene Hackman in the days that followed? And why did the FBI suddenly get involved if no crime seemed to have occurred? These questions remain unanswered, but one thing is clear: the story is far from over. The story of Gene Hackman took a sudden twist when a witness came forward with testimony strong enough to challenge all previous assumptions. The witness was Barbara Lenahan, the neighbor across from Hackman's house, and what she revealed changed everything. Barbara had hesitated to get involved, but when news of Gene Hackman's passing spread, something inside her stirred, pushing her to speak out. Barbara recalled that just days before Betsy's death, she had seen her walking in the backyard, smiling at her during a chance encounter. Betsy looked completely fine. I didn't see any signs of illness, so how could she have passed away so suddenly in less than a week? It didn't add up. If Betsy had been healthy just days before her death, what happened to her so quickly and urgently? How did Gene Hackman spend his final days with Betsy? Gene Hackman was left alone in that vast house, and this is where the story takes a strange and eerie turn. At over 90 years old, Hackman had been diagnosed with severe Alzheimer's, his memory and cognition severely impaired. But what no one could have predicted was that for nearly 2 weeks after Betsy's death, no one came to care for him. No family, no friends, no one. What transpired after Betsy's death remains an unsettling mystery. From the evidence gathered, a grim picture began to emerge. Gene wandered through his home, lost in confusion, unable to comprehend what had happened. He didn't know where Betsy had gone, nor why she was no longer there. No one cooked for him. No one brought him food. The landline still worked, but Gene didn't make a call, or perhaps he had forgotten how. Days passed with no meals, no clean water, no one to talk to. Gene Hackman, the Hollywood titan who once portrayed sharp minds, was now trapped in his own estate, unaware of his slow decline. When the police discovered Gene Hackman's body on February 26th, he had been dead for over a week, likely since around February 18th. A major question emerged. What caused his death? The autopsy report was shocking. Gene Hackman's stomach was completely empty, with no signs of food having been consumed for several days. His body was severely weakened, with vital signs at dangerously low levels. The conclusion was that he had passed away from exhaustion and malnutrition. A man who had once reached the heights of Hollywood, a legend now gone in loneliness and despair. When this truth came to light, outrage erupted. How had no one noticed that Gene Hackman was in danger? Why was there no medical staff or caregiver after Betsy's death? How could a legend be left to face such a fate alone? Many believe that Gene Hackman could have lived longer if he had received timely care, but the harsh reality is that he was left alone in his own home until his final breath. Hackman, once a symbol of intellect and resilience, was abandoned as the lights of Hollywood dimmed and his fame faded. Left with an empty house and a bitter truth, his story took a tragic turn. If you're surprised by what you've just heard and want to know more, leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Now, let's continue this story. No one remembered him. No grand memorials, no glowing articles about his legacy, nothing. Barbara Lenehan shared a chilling thought. All he deserved was a better life than this. But it's as if someone decided he shouldn't be remembered, a forgotten suit for a legend who should not fade. And this was just the beginning of a truth that still remains hidden. The discovery left investigators speechless. As the door creaked open, a strange scent filled the air, drifting through the vast mansion. Dim light filtered through the dusty windows. Everything was eerily still. The estate that had once been home to Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa now stood isolated and cold, abandoned by time. Then, for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, they saw him. A maintenance crew and security team had been sent to check the house after losing contact with Gene Hackman. No one expected the sight that would haunt them forever. The door to the storage room creaked open, and there he was, Gene Hackman, motionless. Not on the bed, not in the living room, but in the storage room, a cramped corner wedged between the kitchen and the outdoors. Beside him, a walking stick leaned against the wall, an old staff on the floor. His sunglasses lay near his right hand. At first, they thought he was just sleeping, but when one of the workers gently touched his shoulder, the reality hit them all at once. The room fell into complete silence. No one spoke. Only the cold, painful truth remained. Gene Hackman had passed away alone, unnoticed by anyone. The forensic report later revealed the harsh truth about Gene Hackman's final moments, with the time of death determined by his pacemaker data. He had taken his last breath on February 18th, meaning he had been lying there for over a week before being discovered. There were no signs of injury, but the report showed signs of severe exhaustion, dehydration, and hunger, suggesting he had died from starvation and exhaustion. No disturbance, no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle, just a silent house, filled with an eerie, invisible presence. But that wasn't the darkest part. The 12-acre estate in Santa Fe wasn't just home to Gene and Betsy, it was shared with 3 dogs, loyal companions to the couple. However, when investigators searched the property, they uncovered something strange. One of the dogs had died mysteriously. The other 2 survived, wandering the vast grounds, uncared for, with no signs of poisoning or attack. The dead dog was found not far from where Betsy had been discovered, as if it had witnessed something, then collapsed for reasons no one could explain. This raised a chilling question. What really happened inside that mansion? The deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa are a tragedy, yet they remain a mystery, a series of strange events that no one can fully explain. What truly happened inside the vast Santa Fe mansion is still unknown. What caused Betsy's sudden death? Why wasn't Gene Hackman checked on for days? While the police have ruled out foul play, not everyone accepts that explanation. An initial theory was proposed by Gene Hackman's daughter, who suspected carbon monoxide, CO, poisoning, a colorless and odorless gas that can be deadly in high doses. This theory isn't without merit. The mansion's gas heating system could have leaked CO. Symptoms of CO poisoning include dizziness, headaches, nausea, disorientation, fatigue, confusion, and, with prolonged exposure, coma or death. If Betsy died from CO poisoning without anyone noticing, she could have collapsed in the bathroom, unable to call for help. Gene, suffering from Alzheimer's, might not have recognized the danger and could have slowly succumbed to the same gas, possibly taking days before seeking assistance. However, the police dismissed this theory, as the heating system showed no signs of leakage and tests revealed no abnormal CO levels, despite the doors being closed. Still, doubts linger. The confirmed cause of Betsy's death was HPS, hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare disease caused by rodents. However, doubts remain about the virus's origin. Neighbors never saw any rodents in Hackman's neighborhood, and the police found no signs of them. HPS is uncommon, typically affecting only those directly exposed to the urine or saliva of an infected rodent. So how did Betsy contract the virus? Some theories suggest she might have been exposed elsewhere before returning home. But if that's the case, why didn't Gene get infected? Some medical experts have raised doubts about the diagnosis, suggesting that another cause may have been overlooked in the rush to identify HPS. What is certain is that Betsy's sudden passing occurred before Gene Hackman's decline. Was this just a tragic coincidence? Or is there something we still don't fully understand? The most debated question remains. Why wasn't Gene Hackman found sooner? He was a Hollywood icon with family, friends, and relatives. Why did no one visit him for nearly 2 weeks after Betsy passed away? Who was responsible for his care? No medical staff was called, the family didn't reach out, and neighbors didn't see him step outside. There are still too many unanswered questions surrounding Gene Hackman's passing. Gene Hackman, a giant of cinema who once dominated Hollywood, ended his life alone, surrounded by doubt and unsolved mysteries. But the biggest question remains: what did he truly leave behind for the world? Hackman's career triumphs undoubtedly overshadow the tragic end of his final days, but how will his legacy ultimately be remembered? The mansion where Hackman spent his final years may now become a somber monument, or perhaps it will fade into obscurity, forever tied to unresolved mysteries. Unanswered questions and vague theories continue to haunt Hackman's legacy. Could it have been a life marked by regret and unexplainable tragedies? Gene Hackman was a symbol of resilience and talent, but his death exposed dark corners few ever imagined. The doubts surrounding his abandonment and the questions of whether anyone knew and chose to turn a blind eye have sparked ongoing debates. While the police may have closed the case, the questions linger, waiting for the day they might finally be answered. Gene Hackman's legacy, though undeniable, continues to resonate deeply with his fans. However, the price of the untold secrets surrounding his life and death may forever remain one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. The questions surrounding Hackman's passing still lack answers. Is there something hidden that we don't know? His death will remain an unsolved enigma. Above all, do we ever truly know what happened in the final chapter of Gene Hackman's life? A Hollywood legend, despite the struggles in his final years, Hackman remains one of cinema's greatest icons. His unforgettable roles will forever be etched in the hearts of fans. Yet his passing leaves many unanswered questions. Is the end of such a great legend a mystery we may never fully understand? With over 60 years in the film industry, Gene Hackman was not only an exceptional actor, but also a symbol of dedication, talent, and determination. His iconic roles, from Popeye Doyle in The French Connection to Lex Luthor in Superman, are forever etched in the hearts of fans. Every movie Gene Hackman starred in was more than just a film. It was a piece of Hollywood history. But with all his great legacy, his death raises a profound question. Does fame and success truly guarantee a happy ending? The two homes, including the Santa Fe mansion, will they become a sad monument or a forgotten shell? After Gene Hackman passed away, his home became a topic of much debate. Some believe it will transform into a heritage site, a place where fans can come to honor him. Others believe it's tainted by the tragedies within, a place no one dares to enter. Many shudder at the thought of the 12-acre estate, where Gene Hackman lay for days, unnoticed. It was no longer just a house. It became a dark memory, a symbol of loneliness and unresolved secrets. The debate continues. Will the family keep it, or will they sell it to distance themselves from the painful past? Who will dare to step into the scene of one of Hollywood's strangest tragedies? Regardless of its fate, the mansion will forever be tied to the mysterious final days of Gene Hackman. After the news of Gene Hackman's death spread, film lovers and colleagues planned a tribute event to honor his cinematic gifts and remind the world of his immense legacy. But a hurdle troubled some. Can we hold a tribute while questions about his death remain unanswered? Are we honoring a legend or covering up a truth someone once buried? The event organizers grappled with whether they were obscuring a story they didn't fully comprehend. The tribute event went on. Hundreds of former colleagues, collaborators, and loyal fans filled the room. Praise echoed through the air. His films were replayed, and iconic scenes were revisited. Yet, a quiet unease lingered. Have we truly uncovered everything about the end of Gene Hackman's life? The question hung in the atmosphere, casting a shadow over the celebrations. While everyone honored his legacy, there was still an underlying sense that the full story remained untold. Could we ever fully understand the mystery surrounding his final days? For many years, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were the epitome of the perfect couple. Betsy stood by Gene during his decline, being his most trusted companion. Gene once called Betsy the greatest gift he had ever received. However, they parted in the harshest manner, one falling in the bathroom, the other withering in loneliness. This has led many to wonder if fate was too cruel to them. Two souls, destined to leave this world in such grim circumstances, leaving behind questions that no one can answer. Gene Hackman had it all: fame, career, love, and wealth. But in the end, what remained was a man who had shaken Hollywood, leaving without anyone knowing. A figure who faced millions of dollars under the spotlight, but was left in the darkness of his home. His greatness cannot be erased, but was his passing a warning? Does fame shield us from loneliness? Can wealth buy a perfect ending? In the end, we are left with only ourselves, and no one can answer. But one truth remains. Gene Hackman's story is not just a passing, but a legend, a tragedy, an endless mystery. Thank you for watching this video. If you found the story interesting and want to keep following, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and everyone around you. Leave a comment with your thoughts below to let us know. And make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the next ones. The mysterious story surrounding the death of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, has stunned the public. Will the truth ever come to light? Gene Hackman's daughter, Leslie Hackman, was thrust into intense questioning in court, where she was compelled to reveal details that had never been disclosed before. What did Leslie know about her father's condition? And are there dark secrets hidden behind the deaths of both Gene Hackman and his wife? If you want to dive deeper into the chilling mystery surrounding their deaths, don't miss any important details. Be sure to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for the latest updates on this case. The tense atmosphere in the courtroom was palpable, as all eyes turned to Leslie Hackman, the daughter of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman. Standing there, her face resolute, yet her eyes betraying the weight of unspoken truths, she faced questions about her father, his final months, and the long-awaited truth. Did she truly know nothing? Or had she been hiding something all along? In the eerie silence of the courtroom, a shocking truth about the deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, began to surface. Their deaths were no accident, and suspicions that Leslie Hackman was concealing the truth, coupled with buried evidence in Santa Fe, sparked a story that had no clear ending, just a beginning. Previously, Leslie had always claimed to have a close relationship with her father, mentioning that they spoke every week and shared conversations about the books he read and the classic films he loved. These statements reassured the public, painting a picture of Gene Hackman as the strong, principled man on screen, still sharp in his private life. However, this image began to unravel when a shocking truth emerged. Leslie had not seen her father for months before his death. Evidence gathered from phone records, documents, and testimonies from those close to Hackman revealed that in the year leading up to his death, he had very little contact with his daughter. The calls, Leslie claimed, they had never seemed to take place. So, was her account the truth, or just a carefully orchestrated performance to mislead the public? As investigators delved into the details of Gene Hackman's life in his final months, an unsettling truth came to light. He had not left his home for months, and neighbors reported rarely seeing him outside. This starkly contradicted the image Leslie had painted of her father. If you find this story intriguing and want to uncover more surprising details, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos in this exploration series. Be sure to comment below to share your thoughts and let us know what you think about Gene Hackman's daughter's testimony. We look forward to having you join us on the journey to uncover the truth. According to Leslie, Gene Hackman remained healthy and sharp until his final days, painting a picture of a father still strong enough to enjoy life, albeit privately and sequestered. But why is there such a stark contrast between Leslie's portrayal and the reality that investigators uncovered? If Leslie truly had a close and intimate relationship with her father, why didn't she notice this discrepancy? Why didn't she recognize the signs that her father had been completely isolated from the outside world for such an extended period? There are several possibilities that could explain this discrepancy. One is that Leslie may not have been fully aware of her father's level of privacy. It's possible her visits or contact with him were infrequent or not deep enough to notice that he was living in complete isolation. A person can still appear healthy and sharp during brief conversations, while the reality of full isolation remains hidden. Another possibility is that Leslie had a different perspective on her father's health and sharpness. For her, the fact that her father could still converse, recognize her, and maintain clarity might have been enough to believe he was still well. She may not have seen the lack of physical activity or the fact that he never left the house as concerning, especially if her father had always preferred a private, homebound lifestyle. There could also be more complex factors at play within the family dynamic. It's possible that Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, deliberately concealed his true condition from Leslie. They may have wanted to shield her from worry, or simply preferred to keep their private lives untouched. On the other hand, it's also possible that Betsy Arakawa didn't recognize the extent of the isolation or chose not to share it with Leslie, either to protect her or because she felt it wasn't necessary for her to know. In the midst of the uncertainty surrounding the investigators' findings on Gene Hackman's death, Leslie Hackman quickly spoke to the press, suggesting that her father's death was caused by a gas leak in the house. If true, this theory would provide a specific and verifiable explanation for the sudden death of a man who, according to Leslie, was still healthy and sharp. It could also explain why someone who had not left the house for months suddenly died there. However, the gas leak theory was completely dismissed by the police, raising many questions. What motivated Leslie to present this theory? Was it a personal assumption based on her own observations, or was she attempting to hide the truth? According to the investigation records presented to Leslie Hackman, the reality was entirely different. What was written in the records left Leslie unable to believe her eyes. Her father, the strong man she had always admired, had been suffering from severe Alzheimer's. He had also experienced multiple heart attacks in the past, something she had never heard of, never imagined, and, most importantly, had publicly denied. Now, the undeniable evidence was surrounding her, forcing her to confront a reality she had long refused to accept. From the very beginning, Leslie had insisted that her father was completely healthy, alert, and showing no signs of illness. She told the press that he still read books and could drive, but the medical reports told a different story. According to the findings, Hackman had been suffering from late-stage Alzheimer's for at least 2 years before his death. The signs of memory decline were not new to those close to him. He had forgotten the names of old friends and even struggled to find his way home, despite living there for over a decade. Some former house staff revealed that Hackman sometimes failed to recognize his wife, Betsy Arakawa. But the most concerning aspect was his cardiovascular condition. The investigation report confirmed that Hackman had suffered multiple heart attacks in the past, yet this information had never been made public. One of his treating doctors left a note in his medical records, documenting the history of heart attacks and signs of severe coronary artery disease. What remains unclear is why the family chose to keep his true health status a secret. Reports indicate that Hackman's health had significantly deteriorated in the years leading up to his death in 2025. Close friends mentioned that he had become weaker and struggled more with movement, though he remained mentally sharp. When Hackman and his wife were found dead in their home in February 2025, many speculated whether his cardiovascular condition had played a role in his death. Data from his pacemaker confirmed that his heart stopped beating on February 17th, but the cause of death remains unclear. Some experts theorize that his wife, in shock after finding him unresponsive, may have succumbed to heart failure due to the intense stress. Despite facing numerous health challenges, Hackman lived a long and fulfilling life, choosing to spend his final years in peace, away from the Hollywood spotlight. His legacy as an actor remains intact, but it is his resilience in dealing with health issues that is truly admirable. With the surprising discoveries emerging from the ongoing investigation, it seems we may have only scratched the surface of a much larger mystery. Were Hackman and his wife truly victims of an unforeseen accident? Or is there something strange and unexplained that the FBI is slowly uncovering? This story will undoubtedly continue to captivate the public's attention and fuel debate in the coming months as more details come to light. If Hackman was truly that frail, why was Leslie completely unaware? As soon as this information surfaced, the media began questioning the authenticity of Leslie's previous claims. A woman who consistently insisted on having a close relationship with her father should have been well aware of his health condition, yet strangely, she seemed to know nothing about Hackman's illness, or perhaps she simply didn't want to know. Some journalists hypothesized that Leslie lived too far away from her father in his final years to recognize the signs of illness. However, a source from the hospital revealed that throughout Hackman's treatment, Leslie never once visited him. This raised even more questions about the true nature of Leslie's relationship with her father. Why did Leslie paint such a different picture of him? Clearly, much remains to be uncovered, and one theory is gaining more traction. Perhaps Leslie wasn't the only one trying to hide the truth. According to some sources, Betsy Arakawa, Gene Hackman's wife, had complete control over the information regarding his health. She was the sole caregiver in his final years and made decisions about who could contact him and who could not. This has led to speculation that Leslie might not be lying, but rather simply unaware of the truth, as she was never truly by her father's side during that time. However, this raises an even bigger question. Why was Gene Hackman so isolated that even his daughter was completely unaware of his condition? As this information spread through the media, a strong wave of controversy erupted. Questions were raised about whether Leslie truly loved her father or if she was simply trying to protect the family's reputation. Some argued this could be a typical case of celebrity family members shielding the image of their loved one, even at the cost of denying painful truths. Gene Hackman's fan community split into two factions. One side believes that Leslie didn't know about her father's health condition because Betsy, Hackman's wife, deliberately kept the information hidden. However, others suspect that Leslie may have intentionally ignored the truth, unwilling to face the reality of a Gene Hackman no longer as strong as he once was. Did Leslie truly fail to recognize her father's deteriorating health, or was she concealing his decline? The clear medical evidence contradicts Leslie's claims about Gene Hackman's mental sharpness. Is there a deeper secret being hidden about the health of this Hollywood legend? Regardless of the final outcome, one thing is undeniable. Gene Hackman, the film legend, was no longer the man he once was in the final years of his life. He was no longer the strong, sharp figure the public had once adored. While the outside world continued to believe he was fine, he fought alone against a cruel disease, isolated in his own home. Leslie's suspicious actions have only deepened doubts about her claim that she was unaware of her father's health condition. It seems clear that she was aware of the situation through reliable sources, such as conversations with family members. She knew that her father had not left the house for an extended period. Her strange behavior, including avoiding contact with the police to the point of being served a subpoena, has only fueled public skepticism and raised more questions about her true role in the unfolding mystery. A notable detail is that Leslie only appeared after everything had ended. She was not present during Hackman's final days, nor did she participate in caring for him during that difficult period. This has led close acquaintances to question the close relationship she had previously portrayed with her father, as it became clear that she had not seen him for an extended period. A former friend of Gene Hackman, a director who had worked closely with him, commented that Gene was not the type to hide his health issues. In fact, he had openly shared his health problems with the media in the past. So why was his daughter unaware of her father's condition? Could there be a secret she is unwilling to reveal? Another concerning detail is that immediately after her father's sudden death, Leslie requested to manage all of Gene's assets without informing any other family members about her decision. This raised even more eyebrows, as Gene Hackman had always been private about his personal finances and had never left clear instructions for his family. Leslie even refused to share information about the estate with relatives, leading them to suspect that she was trying to keep Gene Hackman's vast fortune all to herself. Although Gene Hackman had openly shared his intentions regarding the distribution of his estate before his death, Leslie made a noticeable request to alter the will. She asked for adjustments to the portion Hackman had planned to leave to other family members, while also adding the names of individuals who were not close to him to the list of heirs. The reason behind this request was that the portion Hackman left to Leslie was not large enough, prompting her to stir controversy and ask for a redistribution of assets to secure a larger share for herself. After Gene's death, Leslie continued to draw public attention when she was spotted dining at an upscale restaurant with her sister, Elizabeth. What surprised everyone was that throughout the meal, Leslie smiled brightly and showed no signs of sadness or mourning over the significant loss. While everyone copes with grief differently, Leslie's behavior in this situation left many feeling confused and perplexed. Instead of taking time to reflect or share her sorrow with family, she appeared calm and even cheerful. She chatted comfortably with her sister, laughed, and discussed everyday matters which only fueled doubts about the authenticity of her emotions. Many people who witnessed this scene began to question the sincerity of Leslie's emotions toward her father. They wondered whether she was trying to hide her true feelings or simply didn't feel deeply saddened by Gene Hackman's death. This contrast became even more striking when compared to the reactions of other family members who were more reserved and less publicly expressive of their emotions. As the case progressed, two main theories began to emerge. The first, a concerning theory, suggested that Leslie was fully aware of her father's health condition, but deliberately kept it hidden. She might have felt guilty for not being by his side during his final months, or there could be another reason preventing her from revealing the truth. Gene Hackman's death remains shrouded in mystery, and her statements in court are just the beginning of a complex search for the truth. The second stranger theory began to emerge as the story unfolded. Could something have happened in Gene Hackman's final months that Leslie is trying to protect, hiding a secret? Everything surrounding the death of this Hollywood legend remains unclear, and the details surrounding Leslie's actions continue to raise numerous questions from the public and the family. A lingering question continues to haunt the story. If Hackman was as healthy and sharp as Leslie insisted, why did he choose to cut himself off from the world entirely? Why was Betsy Arakawa the only one able to verify his true condition? And why does Leslie appear so uneasy and defensive when questioned about her father's final days? There are clearly many hidden layers to this tale, but one thing is undeniable. Leslie won't be able to conceal the truth forever. When forensic investigators performed the autopsies on Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, the initial theories about their deaths quickly fell apart. Police had initially suspected that Hackman died from old age and the late stages of Alzheimer's disease, but the circumstances surrounding Arakawa's death raised more questions. She died unexpectedly, with no visible signs of violence, just a frail body and a broken pill bottle on the floor. But when the autopsy results were revealed, unsettling details began to surface, turning the situation into something even more chilling and baffling than anyone could have imagined. The initial conclusion pointed to a heart attack as the cause of Gene Hackman's death. Alzheimer's disease had slowly weakened his body, worsening his heart condition, and when no one was around, he passed away quietly, free from any signs of external force. Hackman died alone, seated in a chair in the mudroom, likely from exhaustion or a sudden heart attack. But the most chilling part wasn't his death itself. It was the profound loneliness he endured in his final months, with no one there to offer care or comfort. When forensic experts examined Betsy Arakawa's body, they uncovered a startling revelation. She had contracted a dangerous virus known to cause severe respiratory failure and damage to internal organs. This virus is typically transmitted through contact with the feces, urine, or saliva of infected rodents, or by inhaling airborne dust particles from their waste. It can also spread through contaminated food or drink, raising even more questions about the true cause of her death. What's truly terrifying is that this virus can develop in the body without showing clear symptoms for days, meaning Betsy could have been infected long before the illness fully manifested on her final day. The virus's symptoms include a sudden high fever, severe difficulty breathing, muscle pain, prolonged fatigue, and rapid respiratory failure. When forensic investigators examined the living conditions in the house, they found numerous signs of rodents, which could have been the source of Arakawa's infection. But the biggest question remains: when did she contract the virus? And most importantly, was it the primary cause of her death or merely a contributing factor to her tragic end? It wasn't just Hackman and Arakawa who were affected. Their 3 dogs were also impacted. One dog died before the police arrived, and the cause remains uncertain. The other 2 survived, but their health had greatly declined, showing clear signs of dehydration and malnutrition. Veterinarians determined that all 3 dogs had symptoms of respiratory infections, likely caused by an airborne virus in the house. However, the biggest question still lingers. How could such a luxurious mansion, always meticulously maintained, become the breeding ground for a dangerous virus to spread so rapidly? As the FBI and investigative team continued their search of the house, they stumbled upon something strange. The basement was missing from the original floor plan. A police officer, while investigating, noticed an old wooden door in this area, one that wasn't listed in any construction documents. When they opened it, a dark tunnel appeared before them. The atmosphere grew heavy with tension. What lay ahead? Flashlights in hand, they cautiously descended the stairs, each step adding to the eerie silence. As the light finally reached the end of the tunnel, the group froze, their eyes locked on the unsettling sight before them. The investigators quickly picked up on several unsettling details. Hackman and his wife, Betsy, appeared to have been isolated in an odd manner. Why would a couple so well connected in Hollywood suddenly vanish from the public eye in their final months? Neighbors reported that no one had been seen entering or leaving the Hackman home for weeks, a sharp contrast to Hackman's usual routine. He had always been a friendly neighbor, engaging in regular conversations. But in the past few months, he seemed to have disappeared entirely from the world. As the case intensifies, Leslie, Hackman's only daughter, is compelled to testify in court. She never imagined she would one day be forced to answer questions about her father's mysterious death. As the daughter of a Hollywood legend, Leslie always portrayed a close bond with her father, but the biggest question remains. Did she truly not know about Hackman's condition, or is she concealing a startling truth? And if she knows more than she's revealing, could her testimony unravel everything and change the course of the case? With the newly uncovered investigation documents, legal experts began to propose a bold theory. Leslie Hackman and her testimony might hold the key to unraveling the truth behind the case. Sources from the Santa Fe Police Department revealed that Leslie hadn't seen her father in months, a significant gap given his declining health. So, how could she insist Hackman was still healthy before his death? If Leslie genuinely didn't know about her father's late-stage Alzheimer's and severe heart condition, it would suggest a shocking level of neglect, and if she knew but denied it, the implications would be staggering, possibly sparking a new investigation into both Hackman's and Arakawa's deaths. Hackman was always fiercely private about his personal life, particularly when it came to his children. In 1989, he told film critic John C. Tibbets that audiences connected with him because he presented himself as an ordinary man, explaining, "I want to keep my personal life simple, so that when I'm in front of the art, I can let go and immerse myself in it." During a segment on Larry King Live, Hackman reflected on his early career. When Larry King asked about his transition from obscurity to fame, Hackman admitted, "Honestly, I didn't handle it very well. I took care of my family, made sure they lacked for nothing, but I was too fascinated by Hollywood, its mystique. Even though I never really became part of it, I still felt fascinated because I was a part of it, and the feeling that I could be anyone and do anything I wanted." Hackman and Maltese welcomed their first child, son Christopher Allen Hackman, in 1960. In February 1984, Hackman sat down with journalist Lita Powell Drake for an interview about the film Misunderstood. When asked about his relationship with his son as Christopher entered his 20s, Hackman shared that despite the years, they still maintained a strong and close bond. He expressed gratitude that he could still hug his son, just as he did when he was younger. Hackman revealed that he never imagined a time would come when he and his son would have to change how they expressed affection, where instead of hugging, they would be shaking hands. He considered one of the greatest challenges in the films he worked on to be the coldness of not understanding, or being sensitive to, a child's need for affection and comfort from a father. In a 2011 interview, Hackman reflected on his experience as a father. When asked about the advice he had given to his son, he admitted that his frequent absences during critical years of Christopher's life had made it difficult to offer much guidance. Being away on film shoots while his son needed support and direction posed a challenge, making it hard for Hackman to come home and suddenly take on the role of a disciplinarian. Reflecting on his journey as a writer, Hackman shared his son's early career aspirations in an interview with Empire magazine in January 2020. He remembered how his son once dreamed of becoming an actor and spent time in New York, where Hackman would write small monologues for him. His son was incredibly enthusiastic about what he was doing, and as creative ideas flowed, he would eagerly jot them down, exploring his passion with growing excitement. In an interview with Irish Independent in August 2000, Hackman made rare comments about his children, revealing that they played a crucial role in his decision to continue acting rather than pursue a career behind the camera. After securing the rights to Silence of the Lambs, he had initially planned to make his directorial debut, but ultimately turned down the opportunity, a decision he said he had no regrets about. "I didn't give it a second thought," he shared, adding, "My children helped me see that it wasn't the best thing for me." He also acknowledged the challenges of being the child of a famous person, saying, "I couldn't always be home with them as they grew up and lived in California. My success always weighed heavily on them." Despite a complicated relationship with his father, Hackman's children loved him deeply and were devastated when they received the news of his tragic death. Gene Hackman was once one of Hollywood's greatest icons, but in his final years, he passed away in eerie silence. Betsy Arakawa, a seemingly healthy woman, died from a rare disease. Leslie Hackman is the only person who could reveal the truth, yet she appeared unaware of her father's condition. These events raise a chilling question. Are they just random tragedies? Or is something more sinister at play? For Leslie Hackman, losing both her father and stepmother is not only a personal loss, but a deep scar that will never heal. With the public demanding answers, the family under immense pressure, and the media relentless, the mystery only deepens. Thank you all for watching until the end of the video. The case of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa is still filled with unanswered questions. Will the truth ever come to light? And will we uncover the secrets the Hackman family has kept hidden? Stories like these make us reflect and ask big questions about what's happening behind the scenes. Be sure to stay tuned to our channel so you don't miss any updates on this case and other mysterious ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because the truth can surprise us at any moment. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video. Gene Hackman vanished without a trace, slipping away quietly with no applause, no send-off from those who had once celebrated him. But why? Why did Hollywood, the same industry that had once elevated him to stardom, allow him to fade into obscurity? Robert Duvall knew the answer he always had, and when he finally spoke out, the truth shocked everyone. Gene Hackman didn't step away because of old age or a desire to escape the spotlight. He was pushed out. Hollywood had no room left for him. The same people who once hailed him as a legend silently turned their backs. When Robert Duvall finally revealed the truth, something no one else dared to speak, it wasn't just heartbreaking, it was a brutal revelation beyond words. What really happened to Gene Hackman? Who forced him out, and why? Until the end, he never looked back. If you're captivated by the story of Gene Hackman and his mysterious disappearance, make sure to hit like, share this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thrilling content. Now, let's jump into the story. Robert Duvall gazed into the camera, his expression calm, yet his aging eyes told a different story. Something unspoken, a quiet sorrow, or perhaps something deeper. For years, he had kept quiet about Gene Hackman, a man once hailed as a Hollywood titan. But today, Robert Duvall shattered that silence, and what he revealed stunned the entire film world. Robert Duvall and Gene Hackman were never the best of friends. They didn't share drinks or spend afternoons on the golf course like many Hollywood peers. Yet, an unspoken respect always existed between them. Both were quiet, humble figures from Hollywood's golden age. Men who didn't rely on charm or flamboyance to make their mark. They started as unknowns in supporting roles, gradually emerging with an undeniable presence, commanding respect, and instilling fear without uttering a single word. Gene Hackman and Robert Duvall may not have been close friends, but they shared an understanding that few in the industry could match. For years, Duvall remained silent about Hackman. No praise, no stories, not even a mention in interviews. Whenever asked, he would either smile or remain quiet. This silence stretched on for so long that it became its own mystery. Was there hidden tension between them? Or did Duvall simply not see the need to discuss his colleague in passing conversations? But when Gene Hackman passed away, Duvall broke his silence, and what he revealed stunned everyone. On March 7th, the film world was rocked by the tragic news. Gene Hackman had passed away at 95. He died in his home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he had spent his final years, far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Medical reports revealed that his death was due to severe heart complications caused by high blood pressure and advanced Alzheimer's disease. What made Gene Hackman's death even more haunting was that his wife, Betsy, had passed away just a week earlier from a rare illness, H. virus-induced pulmonary syndrome, a disease transmitted by rodents. When authorities entered their home, they uncovered chilling details. Hackman's body was discovered in a small entryway near the kitchen, while his wife lay in the bathroom, a bottle of pills spilled on the floor beside her. Their loyal dog, Xena, one of their 3 pets, was found dead in the closet, though the other 2 animals had survived. Hackman's death was not only the loss of a Hollywood legend, but also sparked a wave of unanswered questions. How did he spend his final days? Did he know that his wife had passed before him? The world speculated, but Robert Duvall didn't ask. Instead, he reflected on the past, on the era that Hackman had come to symbolize. Robert Duvall finally broke his silence in an exclusive interview following Hackman's passing. He spoke about the man he had kept quiet about for so long. His voice remained steady, devoid of sentimentality or dramatic emotion. He didn't cry or show pain, but each word he uttered held an undeniable weight. He was the toughest man I've ever known, not just on screen but in real life, Duvall said. Hackman wasn't just tough on screen, he was a hard man. He was almost a mistake, a former Marine, and military discipline followed him his entire life. But that toughness made him lonelier. Some people crave being liked, but Gene didn't care. He never sought admiration, never needed recognition. He skipped award shows, turned down interviews, and lived life his own way. Maybe that's why he and I never became close. We were too much alike. Gene Hackman left behind an extraordinary legacy in film, with iconic roles in classics like Popeye Doyle in The French Connection and Little Bill Daggett in Unforgiven. He never shied away from portraying ruthless, cruel, or morally complex characters. But Robert Duvall wasn't focused on listing Hackman's greatest films. What mattered most was that Hackman brought a spirit to Hollywood that's no longer there. Today's actors don't have what he had. He wasn't just an actor, he embodied the character. Hollywood today is filled with attractive faces, polished performances, and technically skilled actors. But few possess the raw, undeniable authenticity that Hackman brought. That's why his departure wasn't just the loss of a man, it was the end of an era. After Robert Duvall's interview was published, there was little reaction from Hollywood's veterans. Clint Eastwood, still making films into the 90s, stayed silent. Dustin Hoffman, Warren Beatty, Jack Nicholson, none of them spoke up. Perhaps they understood there was nothing left to say. A legend had passed, a generation was fading, and no tribute, obituary, or reminiscing could change that. Robert Duvall gazed up at the New Mexico sky, the very sky Hackman had lived under in his final years. Maybe he was reflecting on the old days, a time when men like Hackman stood strong, unshaken, no regrets, but as Hackman once said, nothing lasts forever. Gene Hackman, one of Hollywood's greatest actors, abruptly stepped away from the spotlight, choosing a life of seclusion in Santa Fe, New Mexico. His decision not only shocked fans, but also sparked curiosity about the real reasons behind his departure from the film industry. Over a career that spanned more than 4 decades, Hackman left an indelible mark with unforgettable performances in films like The French Connection, Unforgiven, and The Royal Tenenbaums. With 2 Oscars under his belt, he was hailed as one of the most talented actors of his generation. In 2004, Hackman made an unexpected announcement. He was retiring after starring in Welcome to Mooseport. During an interview with Larry King, he revealed that he had no upcoming film projects and felt his acting career had reached its conclusion. After leaving Hollywood, Hackman and his wife, Betsy, relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where they sought a quieter life away from the limelight. They embraced a peaceful life, far from the noise of the entertainment industry. Hackman dedicated his time to writing and painting, publishing several novels, and engaging in local art activities. Although he stepped away from the screen, he maintained contact with a few old colleagues but rarely appeared at public events. Hackman's exit from the spotlight wasn't just retirement, it was a total disappearance. He didn't attend any events, turned down interviews, and never bid a formal farewell to his fans. This silence has sparked much speculation about the true reason behind Gene Hackman's departure from Hollywood. Some believe he simply sought a peaceful life after dedicating so many years to his craft, while others suspect personal issues or health concerns might have played a role. Robert Duvall and Hackman were once close friends, sharing a small apartment in New York with Dustin Hoffman during their early, ambitious days as actors. Their bond was built on mutual respect and a shared love for the arts. However, as time passed, their paths diverged, and they gradually drifted apart. Despite their growing distance, Duval always held a deep respect for Hackman, and that sentiment was mutual. When Hackman decided to step away from Hollywood and embrace solitude, Robert Duvall kept quiet about his friend's decision. He never spoke publicly about Hackman's departure or his life afterward. This silence fueled speculation in the media and among fans. Some believe Duvall knew the real reason behind Hackman's disappearance, but chose to honor his friend's privacy. Others wondered if there had been a falling out that caused the rift between them. Many theories have surfaced about why Gene Hackman chose to leave Hollywood and retreat into seclusion. One of the most widely believed is that he sought to escape the noise and pressure of the entertainment industry, choosing a peaceful life with his wife and beloved dogs. Some reports also suggest Hackman struggled with health issues, including heart problems and late-stage Alzheimer's disease, which may have influenced his decision. However, due to Hackman's private nature, these claims have never been officially confirmed. In Santa Fe, Hackman lived with his wife, Betsy, and their 3 dogs. They embraced a simple life, keeping to themselves and staying out of the public eye. Their neighbors rarely saw them, and they avoided local social events. The dogs in their home were a testament to Hackman's love for animals and his desire for a peaceful, uncomplicated existence. A maintenance worker arrived at Gene Hackman's home in Santa Fe but received no response at the door. Concern grew, as Hackman was known for his reclusive nature and strict routine. He never deviated from his daily schedule. When the neighborhood security team was alerted, they discovered a chilling scene: 2 lifeless figures inside. More than 2 decades after Gene Hackman left Hollywood, without a word of farewell and never returned, the question still lingers in the hearts of his fans. Why settle for the simple explanation that he just wanted peace away from the spotlight? Many believed Hackman had reached his peak and simply didn't want to continue, but after his passing, a deeper truth began to surface, one that only those closest to him knew. If you find the story behind the spotlight and the mysteries of Gene Hackman's life intriguing, leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Now let's continue the story. Then Robert Duvall broke his silence in a rare interview after Hackman's death, saying something that took everyone by surprise. Gene didn't leave because he wanted to. He was forced to. A simple statement, but it immediately sent shockwaves through the industry. It uncovered a chilling truth. Hackman didn't just step away from the spotlight on his own terms. He was pushed out of Hollywood. Why would an actor with 2 Oscars, someone who commanded every scene with a mere glance, be forced to leave? Who made that decision, and what was the real reason behind it? When asked for more details, Duval paused for a long moment, as if wrestling with his own thoughts, before offering a faint smile and saying, "Hollywood is a business, and when you don't play by its rules, you know how it goes." His answer was vague, yet loaded with meaning. Those who followed Gene Hackman closely knew that he was never easy to manage. Hackman was a masterful actor, but he wasn't one to easily bend to Hollywood's rules. He turned down countless scripts, even with high pay on the table, simply because he didn't connect with the content or the character. He despised the pretense of Hollywood, the lies, the glossy interviews, and the endless flattery. He wasn't afraid to clash with directors or even the most powerful producers. Once, Hackman bluntly told a famous producer, "I don't care how much you pay me, I won't do your movie if it's trash." This statement laid bare his uncompromising nature, and therein lay the problem. Hollywood doesn't favor people like Hackman. They prefer obedient actors who play the political game, who know how to show up at glamorous parties and say all the right things to the media. Hackman didn't do any of that. Throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Hollywood had to tolerate Hackman because his talent was undeniable. But by the 2000s, as new generations of actors emerged and studios shifted their focus, they no longer had a need for Hackman. The Hollywood machine, once reliant on him, began to turn its back on the very actor who had once been its star. This didn't happen overnight. Hackman's removal was slow and subtle, just as Hollywood operates. Quality scripts began to dry up, and offers became fewer and farther between. The roles he was offered lost their appeal, and major projects started to overlook him. Directors he had once worked with, from Francis Ford Coppola to Clint Eastwood, as well as newer directors, gradually stopped seeking him out. Hackman was forgotten by the media, with no more articles celebrating his work, no exclusive interviews, and no accolades that other legends continued to receive. Then came the climax. Hackman completely vanished. No one knew where he was or what he was doing. There was no farewell to Hollywood, no official event marking his departure. He simply disappeared. If anyone knew the truth, it was Robert Duvall. The two had been roommates, weathered the toughest years together, and understood each other more deeply than anyone else. While they may not have been close in the best friend sense, they always knew what the other was up to, where they were. So when Hackman disappeared, Duval surely knew the real reason, but for years he chose silence. "Some things are better left unsaid," Duval remarked, adding yet another layer of mystery. The final question remains. Did Hackman truly choose to leave Hollywood, or was he pushed out by a system he constantly challenged with his tough, uncompromising nature? Hackman may have seen it coming. He might have known that once he was no longer at the top, Hollywood would never let him survive. Instead of becoming a faded star, he chose to disappear, leaving before they could push him out in disgrace. But regardless of the truth, one thing is certain. Hollywood no longer has anyone like Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman was not a perfect legend. He wasn't the type of actor everyone adored or the kind of star everyone wanted to work with. What set him apart from his peers was his brutal honesty, often to the point of harshness. Hollywood may celebrate talent, but it has little tolerance for those who are difficult to work with, and Hackman was probably one of those people. While those who worked with him recognized his genius on screen, behind the scenes, he could be a nightmare. One of the most infamous stories about Hackman revolves around his incident with director Wes Anderson during the making of the Royal Tenenbaums in 2001. Anderson, known for his meticulous, soft-spoken, and eccentric style, was the complete opposite of Hackman's blunt, intense demeanor and impatience with anything he considered frivolous on set. Hackman didn't hesitate to criticize Anderson, even berating him in front of the entire cast and crew. According to several sources, he called Wes Anderson an idiot and told him to pull up his pants and act like a man. This remark quickly became one of Hollywood's most infamous moments. Bill Murray, a longtime friend and collaborator of Anderson, had to step in to defend the young director. While the specifics of what Murray said to Hackman remain unclear, witnesses recall that the atmosphere on set became extremely tense whenever Hackman was around, and Anderson did everything he could to avoid him. To this day, Wes Anderson has never publicly spoken about his experience working with Hackman, but one can look at his frequent collaborators like Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, and Willem Dafoe to see the pattern. Hackman never returned to any of Anderson's projects again. Hackman's intensity wasn't limited to young directors. Even the toughest veterans of Hollywood acknowledged that he wasn't easy to work with. Clint Eastwood, who worked with Hackman on Unforgiven in 1992, had a relationship with him that was both respectful and distant. While Eastwood never openly criticized Hackman, he subtly referenced the actor's challenging nature. Once, when asked about Hackman in an interview, Eastwood simply smiled and offered a cryptic response. "Gene is intense. Don't mess with him." For someone like Clint Eastwood, who had faced Hollywood's toughest challenges and worked with some of its most difficult actors, that remark spoke volumes. Hackman never had much interest in nostalgia. He didn't attend cast reunions, rarely discussed his past films, and never tried to craft a lovable public image. But in a rare interview in 2004, he admitted, "Sometimes I've been tough on people, maybe too tough." Even then, he didn't apologize, offer excuses, or justify his behavior. He simply accepted that this was who he was. That was his character. The reason he was pushed aside is now becoming clearer. Hollywood didn't just push Hackman out because he refused to play by the rules. They pushed him out because he wasn't the type of person people wanted to work with in an industry where networking and diplomacy are key for longevity. Hackman defied it all. He despised flattery, had no interest in making industry connections, and didn't care about pleasing anyone. When Hollywood found enough reasons to push him aside, they didn't hesitate. But one thing they could never deny is that Gene Hackman remains one of the greatest actors in history. No matter how difficult he may have been, his performances will forever be legendary. Hollywood is a harsh world. It can elevate someone to legendary status and just as easily push them into oblivion, and Gene Hackman is just one of the victims of this cruel reality. Robert Duvall didn't just mention Hackman as an exception, he saw it as a warning, something that could happen to anyone. Duvall once said, "Hollywood will pat you on the back when you're on top, then the moment you start to falter, they'll turn their back on you without hesitation." Gene Hackman was once one of the greatest actors in the world. He had it all, a brilliant career, prestigious awards, and the respect of his peers. But then, as if a silent signal had been given, Hollywood decided his time had passed. Hackman likely understood that as well. He didn't cling to fame, didn't seek a final role to reconcile with the public, he simply vanished. But the question remains, why? Did Hollywood push him out because he was too old, because he no longer fit with the new trends, or were there past conflicts that made the industry decide it no longer wanted him? No one knows for sure, but one thing is certain. Hackman was not the only one in this situation. He's just one name on a long list of legends abandoned by Hollywood. Jack Nicholson, once a symbol of madness and wild energy on screen, almost vanished after The Bucket List in 2007. Some say he could no longer remember his lines, others claim he simply lost interest in acting. But whatever the reason, Hollywood didn't keep him. Robert Redford, a legend of the 70s and 80s, also quietly retired after The Old Man and the Gun in 2018. He called it a beautiful ending. But did he truly want it that way, or had Hollywood run out of space for him? Dustin Hoffman, another of the greatest actors of all time, faced a scandal in 2017 regarding inappropriate behavior. Since then, he has completely disappeared from major projects. There's a common thread here. Hollywood never lets anyone stay too long. Perhaps one day the big names of today, like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Tom Cruise, will also be left behind, just like Hackman, Nicholson, and countless other legends. When asked about Hackman, Duvall simply said, "Gene understood the truth, but perhaps it was too late." Maybe Hackman doesn't regret leaving Hollywood, but perhaps he regrets not realizing sooner that Hollywood was never truly his home. No matter how talented he was, no matter how much he contributed, at some point, Hollywood will turn its back. When that happens, there are only two choices: fight or disappear. Hackman chose to disappear, and maybe that was the best choice he ever made. Gene Hackman was more than just an actor. He was an icon, a symbol of a generation of strong, fearless, uncompromising men, unafraid to speak their minds. But then, he left without a word of farewell, without any official announcement. He simply disappeared, as if he had never existed. And when Hackman left, a true era came to an end. Gene Hackman belonged to a different generation, one where men didn't feel the need to explain themselves. They weren't the type to sit in front of a camera, crafting a perfect public image. They didn't care about Twitter posts, social media, or self-promotion. Their principle was simple: let their work speak for itself. Clint Eastwood, with his cold, silent gaze yet undeniable strength. Robert Duvall, who could turn any character into a symbol of power. Paul Newman, who exuded an unmistakable elegance and charm. And Gene Hackman, an old lion always ready to roar, even when the world turned its back. They didn't need to act when they stepped off the set. They lived true to themselves, never pretending to be friendly or trying to please anyone. But that era has ended. If you look at Hollywood today, one thing is clear. It is no longer a place for people like Hackman. Hollywood has become a world of meticulously crafted images, carefully worded speeches, and strategically planned personal promotional campaigns. It's a place where actors must transform into public figures, always mindful of every word, every gesture, every moment captured on camera. Gene Hackman couldn't live in that world. He was the type of person who didn't need to befriend anyone just to secure his place. If he didn't like someone, he said it plainly. If he thought a director was doing poorly, he didn't hesitate to criticize them to their face. And that's why Hollywood pushed him to the sidelines. Duvall once admitted, Hollywood is no longer what it used to be. It's no longer a place for the stubborn, the unyielding. We used to have a Hollywood where legends like Hackman, Eastwood, Newman, and Duvall could dominate the screen without worrying about the industry's political games. But today, that is no longer true. Gene Hackman is not the only one to disappear in this way, but what makes him unique is that he never tried to make a comeback. Jack Nicholson still occasionally appears at basketball games. Robert Redford, though retired, still works as a producer. And Dustin Hoffman may no longer land leading roles, but he still makes appearances at certain events. But Hackman, he vanished completely. There was no grand comeback, no final film to say goodbye to the audience, no memoir recounting the glory days. He simply slipped away quietly. Yet, even though he chose to disappear, what he left behind are films like The French Connection, Unforgiven, and Mississippi Burning, works that still stand as a reminder that there once was a Gene Hackman, one who was truly irreplaceable. When Hackman left, he didn't just leave Hollywood, he closed the door on an entire era. Today, we still have great actors, but we no longer have people like Hackman. They don't make a Gene Hackman anymore. There may be more talented actors, or those who excel in adapting to the new era, but a man who is straightforward, humble, and uncompromising like Hackman is something Hollywood has lost forever. And perhaps Hackman understood that. Maybe that's why he left. Not because he no longer loved cinema, not because he lacked the ability to act, but because Hollywood was no longer a place for him. When Robert Duvall remarked that Hollywood isn't what it used to be, he wasn't just referring to Hackman, he was reflecting on an entire era, a time of tough, fearless men who lived authentically. Gene Hackman was one of the final icons of that generation, and his departure marked the end of a true era. Gene Hackman never staged an official farewell to Hollywood, and perhaps that was his way. Never one for boasting, needing no grand send-off, or relying on a final film to cement his legacy. He simply vanished, and that departure made his absence all the more unforgettable. While Hollywood may have turned away from Hackman, his films endure. His performances remain sharp, intense, a lasting testament to a man who never yielded to anyone, both in front of and behind the camera. If the mysterious story of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman's life caught you off guard, make sure to like, share, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on thrilling